Hello, collective. Welcome back. Okay, this week is all about joy. How often were you in your joy this week? How often indeed? Gosh, what a question. Not how often were you happy? Very different question. Not how often things went your way, but how often you were in your joy. Happiness is that feeling you get when, for example, you see an adorable puppy or someone gets a gift who you love and you see it light up in them and it lights up in you, or a baby. Joy, on the other hand, is the acceptance of not wanting the moment to be any different than it already is. Happiness is when reality meets your expectation. Joy is the absence of expectation altogether. And so I've been sitting with that question a lot this last week. And if I'm honest, the week began with a real low punch and gratefully ended on some surprisingly high notes. A full spectrum week indeed. And it's thanks to the teachings that I was able to end the week on a high rather than let that low fester and drag me down for longer than it needed to. Those infraction points, big or small, have a way of doing their best to knock us out of the effortless effort of flowing with life. At least they do for me. And I notice how quickly my nervous system can tighten, contract, hold on in those moments. How quickly my mind can race ahead, rehearsing problems that haven't even happened yet. One thing that's helping me is having a daily gratitude practice, not as a bypass and not as false positivity, but as a way of reorienting attention. For example, something as simple as acknowledging the hot water that I have available freely to me at the turn of a handle reminds me how fortunate I am, even with the challenges that I'm facing, that I'm already being held by life in quiet ways. And strangely, that allows the cold water that I then choose to end my showers with feel like a gift rather than a punishment. I don't know about you, whether you've tried to have cold showers through the depths of winter. I did when I was in the UK because I was training for an event, something called Tough Guy. I'm not sure if they still do it, but check it out. But cold showers throughout the depths of winter in the UK was brutal. It was not enjoyable whatsoever. At that time in my life, it was, unpleasant. So gratitude doesn't remove the challenge. It changes the view from which we meet it. So as I said, joy has been on my mind a lot this week, and what it actually means to be in joy. In Tantric teachings, bliss isn't described as an emotion. It's described as the default state of consciousness. It's the thing underneath the emotion, the thing that is ever present. There's a line in The View that says, all that exists throughout all time and beyond is one infinite divine consciousness, free and blissful. Free and blissful. It's its default state of being, which means that's your default state of being. That doesn't mean that we're meant to be happy all the time. Happiness comes and goes. Thoughts visit us and leave us. Emotions rise and fall with the mercurial nature of living. But joy, on the other hand, is what lies beneath all of that. Joy is the complete acceptance of the moment, not needing it to be any different than it already is. And suffering, from the Tantric view, is what happens when we forget that. So here's the question that I've been asking myself, and maybe you'll recognize it too, or at least find value in it. If someone were to look inside your mind at any random point of the day, would they find you sitting with a joyful thought or with a dreadful thought? For me, I see again and again how thoughts arrive that try to obscure joy, worries, projections, comparisons, self-judgments. And Tantra keeps reminding me that that's okay too. It's all God at play in varying gradations of awareness. Because the moment I notice that I've stepped out of joy, when I find the presence to be able to do that, it begins to shift perspective. And that noticing itself becomes an opportunity. That molehill that you tripped over on the way becomes the mountain you now stand atop. That challenge gets to be a proof point of the success you've enjoyed and the success that you're on the way to achieving. This weekend, I met someone whose dream is to trek Nepal with his dog, Orion. And hearing that lit something up within me, because I've lived a version of that dream myself back in 2018. I was fortunate enough to go to Everest Base Camp with two of my teachers, and it's a fond memory of mine. It elicits a lot of joy. And I felt joy remembering it in meeting this person and hearing about his vision, his dream. And I realized something simple but important. When someone is deeply connected to their joy, they invite others back into theirs. And so an invitation for you to maybe just take a moment to remember the last time you experienced joy this week, today, the last time you didn't want the moment to be any different than what it was. You just basked in the enjoyment of it. This week's studies were centered around, let's say, the most fundamental teaching in non-dual Tantra, the view. Because without the right view, you may never find the finish line or even start. In spiritual practice, orientation matters more than speed. If you're oriented correctly, even slow movement will take you somewhere meaningful. Think of it like running a race. You can have all the gear, you can have done all the training, but if you're headed in the wrong direction, you'll never reach the finish line. Practice without right view is said to be fruitless. A lot of effort, but with very little transformation. Or, I forget the word in Sanskrit, for Sanskrit head there, but it's someone who reaches the gates of heaven but forever is waiting because they're unable to let go of that impurity. And I believe it's the impurity of individuality. The mantra I've been sitting with this week is Soham, meaning I am that. When you notice yourself out of your joy, use the mantra. Repeat it softly, especially with the breath. Let it harmonize with your breathing so that it can quiet the mind. Let it gently remind you to recognize what's already here, what you already have, what you've already been gifted. It's so easy to focus on what we don't have. So much so that we can lose sight of everything we've been given. And so rather than focusing on what you're not enjoying about a particular situation, or or experience, allow yourself to press pause, so hum, I am that, and to ask yourself, what is it about this situation experience that I am most enjoying, and how can I enjoy that just 10% more? To repose in that enjoyment, or that piece of enjoyment, and allow that to carry you that final mile of the marathon. Let it gently remind you to recognize everything you already have, to see provision before problem, to remember that nothing needs to be added, nothing needs to be removed, that you are already enough. Getting warm now. Okay. If this is something that resonated with you in this reflection, if you've been noticing how you slip out of your joy or how quickly the mind obscures what's already present, you are more than welcome to inquire into joining the Aligned Living Collective. It's a WhatsApp group where each week I share the Tantric teachings I've been sitting with and how they are actively supporting me in navigating life beyond these videos that I'm sharing here. It's a quiet space, not noise, not pressure, just shared orientation. And if you're feeling called to work more closely together, one-on-one alignment work, or two-on-two alignment work for those in partnership. Tiffany and I sharing contact massage, and I'm finding a lot of joy in that. It's a culmination of decades plus work and personal, spiritual, and relational development all rolled into a tantric-inspired somatic experience that combines contact dance, massage therapy, to be able to either singularly or collaboratively regulate nervous system and have fun at the same time, to deepen into intimacy of connection, to intimacy of life, to stop looping and to start living from truth in body and relationship and decision. You'll find links to all of that in the description. And one last thing, if you're going through a challenging time right now, please remember that you don't have to carry it alone. An invitation to reach out to someone, anyone who's able to hear you and acknowledge you without needing to try and fix you. You're welcome to share anything in the comments or to message me privately, because even naming what's going on and being heard in that can make a difference more than we realize. That energy that's stuck in the body, it needs somewhere to go. It needs to be transmuted, transformed. Otherwise it creates, over time, can dis-ease. So an invitation to digest it and release it, so that you can move on with your life in the direction that is most heartfelt, with most joy, with most passion. Thank you for being here, and see you soon.